So we learned and discussed about the labor force statistics. So in the basic statistics, we have a population aged 15 or above, which is, I think it's probably it's makes easier to say it's a working age population, 15 or older. Okay, and this P is divided into two groups. First, labor force, right? LF. The second group, not in the labor force. And this LF, in turn, has two groups, employed, unemployed. Okay? So unemployed means not employed, and at the same time, looking for work and able to work. Okay? And then we have like basic ratios, labor force participation rate, which is what over what? So here, LF divided by P, right? And unemployment rate, U divided by LF. Okay, and we have employment rate, ER, EP. Okay, so these numbers and then these definitions we need to remember. When we talk about, for example, like male labor force participation rate of 20 to 24, which basically means that we just shrink the population to that age and gender group. Okay, when we say the male labor force participation rate, then we are talking about the male population, male working population, working age population only. Okay, so that is how we make statistics. Okay, so we talked about the LFPR and UR and ER. Okay, so when we look at Korea, the LFPR, especially for women, it tends to be low, right? And then they have M-shaped labor force participation rate. And UR is quite all right, but employment rate, especially for women and young people, are quite low compared to other OECD countries. For example, like men 20 to 24, OECD average is 60, Korea is only 38. Okay, 25, 29, 80. Versus 70. So you can see the big difference in the employment rate. Okay? So when the policy circles, when we say that there is a problem with youth employment, then we usually look at the employment rate when we are talking about the employment rate. And for women is overall 15 to 64, 58, 54, so a little lower, okay, Korea's case, and 20 to 24, 51 and 48, okay. Okay, now let's move on to other topics. So, okay, employed persons, here we talked about UR and ER. I will just briefly talk about the types of employed persons. So sometimes you hear about the statistics about this, so it's good to know what they mean. Okay. Traditionally, in Korean statistics, employees are divided into three groups, okay, three types. One is called permanent employees, temporary employees, and daily employees. So this division is according to the length of labor contract. Okay. So permanent employees are basically, it's a contract for no less than a year. So a year or longer. And temporary is between no less than a month, but less than a year. Okay? And daily employees are employees with a contract for less than a month, okay? Or hired daily. Okay? Some laborers, for example, they have a job only for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, right? Then those people, we call them daily employees. Okay? So temporary employees. So these are just by the length of the labor contract. Okay? But permanent employees, there are some employees without. It should be. There's a mistake. Employees without a labor contract. Actually, without a labor contract with specified length. So some employees are employed without a contract that has specific length of service. But those people who are hired through an official process and have a regular contract in the, let's say, in the company and entitled to bonuses and retirement benefit, and we call them a permanent employees. Okay. So in general, we can say that these are more stable jobs. Stable employees are less stable. Okay. And employees, and there are non-employees, okay, who are working, so we call them employed. Okay, they are employed, but they are not employees. Okay, two groups. One is obviously the self-employed persons, okay, who has a own business, okay, so boss to himself or herself, and the other group is we call unpaid family workers. We talked about this last class. So employee. So these employed we have two. Actually, we can have 3 groups. Okay, probably it's right. There are employees and self-employed and unpaid family workers. Okay, those 3 groups among employees. So self-employed, sometimes we have a definition, we have a division between employer and own account worker. Employer is you're self-employed and you hire somebody. So you pay wage to someone else, then you are an employer. Okay? But lots of self-employed persons do not have any employee. Okay? They just run their business himself or herself, or we don't have from a family member. Then this person is, we call them own account worker. But anyway, that's just too detailed. So we can have this. Sometimes you will see statistics about the size of this and about size of that, those kind of things. Now, I think a few days ago there was a news about in Korea the percentage of self-employed persons, okay, among the employee is historically low now, like a 25%, around 25%. So in Korea, like 1 in 4 employed persons are self-employed. Okay, which is actually still quite high compared to many developed countries. But historically, it seems to be getting smaller and smaller. Actually, the percentage of self-employed persons got smaller and smaller over time. Actually. Okay. So, if you see the if you see the numbers, this is a very recent statistic of the types of employed persons. So, this men and women. Okay, as you can see, that men and women's the competition is quite different. Okay, for men, the largest group is obviously this. Okay, permanent employed. Permanent employees are about 55%. Of all men, and we have very small number of unpaid family workers. Okay, then we have about 25%, a little more than 25% of self-employed men. Okay, so 27 or something. So as you can see, so these up to here, it's non-employees, so it's less than 30%. Okay, so and then employees are more than 70%. About 75% are employees. Okay. And as you can see, the most of them, the largest group are permanent employees and some temporary employees and small number of daily employees. For women, self-employed percentage is pretty low, like about 15%. Okay, but we have a substantial portion of unpaid family workers. It's probably they work with their husband, I guess. The husband is self-employed and the wife is unpaid family worker. Okay, so with them we have about a little more than 20%, and then the rest of them are employees, and you can see that among women, temporary employees, portion of temporary employees are quite high, okay, compared to men. So for men, about 20% are temporary employees or daily employees, but among women, it's more than 30% are temporary or daily employees. Okay? So that's the one characteristic of Korean labor market. Okay? When we look at the employed persons, okay, the women are much more likely to be a temporary employee or a daily employee. Okay? Why? Yeah, probably we need more data than this. Okay. But probably one reason is that a lot of women actually drop out of labor force, okay, when they are in early 30s or late 20s, and when they get back to work later, it's probably difficult for them to find a job as permanent employees. Or it could be their choice, probably. They want a job, okay, more flexible than these jobs. Okay? It's difficult to know. But anyway, so it's a fact that Korean women are more likely to be in this temporary or daily employees group. Okay? More than 30%. About 1/3, we can say. 1/3 of employed women are temporary employees or daily employees. Okay? So it's following, these statistics is a very interesting thing, how the labor market changes in Korea. Okay? So when you look at like about 20 to 30 years ago, self-employed portion was really, really high. Okay? A lot of them were actually farmers. Okay? Most of them are self-employed. So as the agricultural sector gets smaller and smaller, historically, Korean self-employment portion got smaller and smaller. Okay. Okay, now, actually there is another interesting thing about Korean statistic is that we also hear this quite often. So employed, as we said, we have three groups: employees, self-employed, and unpaid family worker. Okay, it's just way too. And then in Korean statistics, interestingly, we have two groups in employees. Okay, one group we call them regular, the other one we call them irregular. This one is also interesting thing. This is very recent statistic, actually. Early 2000, I think, with late 1990s. I should look for it. Okay. So you probably have heard this term quite often, actually. It makes news quite often. Okay, what they mean, but not many people actually know what they mean exactly. Okay, so let's see. Okay, first thing is that this categorization you cannot find anywhere else in the world. It's peculiar to Korea. Okay? So there is no such thing as like an international definition of regular employees or irregular employees. There is no such term. Okay. Another thing is that personally I don't like the term because this term it has too much value. I mean, it seems like regular employees are a good thing and irregular employees are a bad thing. It's a connotation. I don't like the connotation. Okay? It's not a neutral word. It's not like employed or unemployed. Okay? So that's my personal impression, and actually lots of people agree that this term has problem. as the name itself. Okay, then what we mean by regular employees? Okay, this is actually the division, the categorization of regular and irregular was not academic exercise or anything. It was much more political exercise. So, and then regular employees in Korea is very narrowly defined. It's very narrowly defined. Okay. And for an employee to be categorized as a regular employees, an employee should satisfy all of these following conditions. Okay. 1, the person should have a contract, guaranteed retirement age, or expectation of such employment. So basically means that this person should have a contract that lasts until the retirement age. Okay. For example, they say you have a contract for 3 years. Then you are actually permanent employees, right? We have this permanent. Okay, we have these employees. Also, there is another 3 groups, right? Permanent, temporary, and daily. These are different. These are different categorization. So they do not actually, overlap with each other. So in the regular employees is much more narrowly defined than the permanent employee. Permanent employee is 1 year or longer. Here you should have a contract until the retirement age. So as long as you want to work for this company, then you should be able to work. That's the first thing. So if you have like a 3-year contract, then you are a permanent employee, but not a regular employee. Second, you should be working full-time, working more than 36 hours or more per week. So if you're let's say have a job that works for 35 hours per week, then you are not a regular employee. Okay? And this person should be employed directly by the salary payer. What it means is some people get paid by a company but dispatched to work somewhere else. For example, the janitors on this campus, okay, they are not hired by the university. Okay, they work in the university. Workplace is university, but the university is not the salary payer. So those people are not regular employees. So they may be working full time. It's likely to be working full time. Those janitors, right? Okay, they may have a contract. They expect to work for retirement age for their own firm, but they are not employed directly by the salary payer. So this person is not a regular employee. Okay, the last one is that this person should be working at an employer-provided work site. Let's say you are a IT developer, okay? And then you work at your home, let's say. Probably you have a work environment. Then you are not a regular employee, okay? So it's very narrowly defined in a way that it's very narrowly. So this is even narrowly defined than permanent employees. For example, like our young professors, they are not a regular employee, according to this definition. Why? Because they do not have a contract until the retirement age. Okay? Young professors, when they are hired, they usually have like 3 to 5 year contract. So they are not regular employees. Okay? A lot of artists, they are not regular employees. Because a lot of artists are hired based on their project, right? They're performance-based, right? So they are not regular employees. So it's very narrowly defined. So the rest are called irregular employees. So we define regular employees, and then all of them are called irregular employees. So they are very heterogeneous group. They are not the same. Okay, they are just all sorts of things. All sorts of people are in there. So like, for example, like workers with a fixed term labor contract, like our young professors, Okay, they are these group or with no expectation of permanent employment, and workers hired on a project base or daily, like a lot of artists people are like this. Workers working less than 36 hours per week. Okay, so some women work for like only for like a short term or only for, let's say, 3 days a week. Okay, so those kind of people are not there. And dispatched workers, so I explained about this, and workers working at home. So these groups are very heterogeneous. Okay. So when we sometimes call it irregular employees, then we should know that they are not similar type of people. They are very, very different, very heterogeneous. So this one is very narrowly defined. So when we look at the statistics, for men, about 75% are considered to be regular employees, and the others are irregular, about 25%. Okay. So 3 out of 4 male employees are regular employees. Okay. For women, the percentage is smaller. So about 60% are regular employees, and 40% are irregular employees. And if you're a college-educated man, for your case, it's more than 80% are regular employees. And the college-educated women, about 70%. Okay? So the higher education gives you a better chance at being the regular employees. Okay? Questions? Okay, if you look at the percentage of irregular employees for men, it's actually getting a little small. It has actually got smaller and smaller. Okay? So in early 20s, in early 2000s, like 2003, 2004, it's about 35%, right? Now about 10 percentage point lower. For women, yeah, if you compare to here, it's smaller. So close to 45%, but it's around 40%. Okay? So the drop, there is a little drop, but it goes up and down. Okay. So these are the basic categorization of employed persons you often hear in newspapers, okay, or in statistics. In the when the Statistical Office of Korea collects information about the labor force, they collect information about whether the person is regular or irregular only in March and in August. They don't do it every month. Every month we have we collect the data whether this person is employed or permanent employees, temporary employees, or daily employees. Those are monthly statistics are available. But these are only in March and August. It's mainly because it takes much more time to collect information about these regular or irregular employees. There are a lot more information to collect. Okay? So it's more costly in the sense that people don't like to answer the longer questionnaires. So we do it only twice a year. Okay? So this one shows the statistics from August survey. Okay, now let's talk about the unemployed people or not employed people. Okay? So we discussed what unemployed person means. Unemployed person means not employed but looking for work. Okay? Not in the labor force means not employed and neither looking for a job, right? So, but there is a subgroup of not in the labor force. These people, we call them discouraged workers. Okay, so a little bit. It's like in between unemployed and not in the labor force. Okay? So these people are persons not in the labor force. Okay, so here, who looked for a job during the past year. Okay, so within last year, this person at one point of time looked for a job, but not currently looking for work now, so not unemployed. So out of here, not in the labor force. Because why they stop looking for a job? Because they believe no jobs are available for them, or there are none for which they would qualify. So they basically are discouraged from finding a job. Basically, that's why we call them discouraged workers. Okay? So this person is kind of person who moved away from unemployed to not in the labor force, because the person is just that there is no job for me out there. Okay. Okay. So the Korean government, Korean statistics collects information about the number of discouraged workers. Okay. Since I think late 1990s. So you can see the numbers goes up and down. Okay, but what is interesting is, recently the number has shoot up so much. It's like it's now like 500,000 people are discouraged workers. So, but what they say is the statistical office says that they changed the definition of discouraged workers. When they determine whether a person is discouraged or not, they make it much more relaxed here, so that's why the number has went up so much. But anyway, so according to the current statistics, we have about 500,000 people who are discouraged workers, okay, which is actually a pretty large number. Okay? So in some cases, people include these discouraged workers as some type of unemployed people, okay, when they talk about the labor force statistics. Okay, and then there is another thing is that we talked about unemployment rate, but there is a criticism about unemployment rate, because unemployment rate, often they say that it's defined so too narrowly. Unemployed people should be not employed, but at the same time looking for work. But we have seen the discouraged workers, whether we see the discouraged workers as like potentially unemployed or not. Some people want to have that kind of information. So the Korean government, and also other actually governments as well, they developed a labor underutilization indicator. So which is like an extended version of unemployment rate. Okay. If you go to Korea's National Statistical Office information page, then we have 3 indicators. We just have a name like indicator 1, indicator 2, and indicator 3. Indicator 1 is underemployed persons. We add underemployed persons to unemployed persons and divide by labor force. So who are underemployed? Underemployed persons are employed persons who work less than 36 hours per week, so not full-time. Okay? In Korea's case, when we say the full-time worker means 36 hours or more per week. Okay, this person is working. Then we call them full-time. Part-time is 35 or less. So it's not full-time, but want and able to work for longer hours. Okay? So in the survey, labor force survey, there is a question about this. So when in the labor force survey, if the individual says that I work less than 36 hours per week, and then there is a question like this: do you want work for longer hours? If you say yes, then if you have that offer, then are you able to work for longer hours? Then yes, then this person, we call them underemployed persons. This person basically does not work up to the level they want. Okay? They just work less than the level that they want. So we call them underemployed persons. Okay? The idea? So it's underutilized. And indicator 2, we have unemployed persons plus potential LF divided by LF plus potential LF. What is potential LF? Potential LF is persons who looked for a job in the past 4 weeks but are not able to work. Okay, if you're unemployed, you should look for a job, and you should be able to work if you have a job. So you looked for a job, but say that you were not able to work. It could be like you have like some type of family commitment, let's say. Okay? So you have to take care of family member. There is a sick family member. Okay? So you cannot work even if you have a job. You want a job, but you cannot work. Then those people are not unemployed, okay? By the definition of unemployed. This person is actually not in the labor force. But here in the potential LF, we include them. Okay? So persons who looked for them in the past but are not able, and plus persons who did not look for a job but want to work and are able to work. Okay, this person want to work but able to work but did not actually look for a job. It's strange, but it happens. Okay? And if you look at the questionnaire of labor force survey, it's good to look at the questionnaire of labor force survey. I don't have time to show you. But if you look at the questionnaire, then you see that the questions relate to this. And these are potential LF. So unemployed person plus potential LF divided by LF and potential LF. Then we use indicator 2. We construct indicator 2. Last indicator 3 is basically all of them. Underemployed person plus unemployed persons plus potential LF divided by LF plus potential LF. So indicator 3, in a way, tells us that the percentage of people who are not employed to the level that, to the most desirable level. Most desirable level is obviously that, you want to work, then you should be able to work. Okay, you want to work for full time, then you should be able to work full time, right? Okay, and you want to work, then you should be at working. So these are the most desirable, situation that we have nobody else, something like this. So these people are, percentage of people who are not working to their most desirable level. Okay, got that? So these are underutilization indicators. Unlike unemployment rate, these indicators are not internationally standardized. Okay, so some countries have different definition of underutilization indicator. Okay? But in Korea's case, we use these three. These are now officially constructed. Okay, so if you look at the snapshot of Korean labor market, the latest statistic, January 2015, then we have these numbers. Now the working age population, or population age 15 or older, we have about 43 million people. And men, 21 million, women, about 20. Yeah, women are 22 million. So there are a little more women than men. Why? Why? There's a simple reason why. Yeah, women live longer than men. Okay, so we have, yeah. So the difference is mostly from the older population. Labor force, we have about 26 million labor force, men 15, women are much smaller, about 11 million. So about 4 million, about 4.4 million difference. Okay. Employed persons, 26 million. Unemployed persons, I think something wrong with this number. Yeah, 24, I think it should be 24106. 25106. Yeah, it should be 25106. Yeah, how come I didn't catch it? 25106. Okay, so employed persons cannot be bigger than LF. Okay. So we have non-LF. So LFPR 61%, men 73, women 50, and we have seen this. Discouraged workers about 500,000. Okay, according to the current statistic. Underemployed persons, we have this underemployed persons and potential LF. We have about 500,000 underemployed persons. Potential LF, we have about 2 million. Okay? So labor underutilization indicator 1, 5.5. Unemployed rate is 3.8, but if we include the underemployed persons, it goes up to about 5.5%. Okay? And then if we look at the potential LF, it's about 10.3, then we add them, all of them, it's 12%. Okay? So it's there's a big difference, like 3 times, right? 3 times as big. This number is 3 times as big as unemployment rate. Okay? So about 12% of people in Korea not employed to their level they want. Okay? Either they are not be able to work full time, or even if they work, okay, they want to work or able to work, they just are not employed yet. Okay? Get it? So, these are the information that you need to know when you hear the labor force statistics. I covered, I think, most important labor force statistics quite extensively. So from now on, when we talk about unemployed rate, labor force participation rate, or employment rate, or whatever, or when you see it in the newspapers or in the news, you should be able to know that what they mean. Okay? Questions? Okay, now let's see these ones. Okay, another thing about labor supply, working is not only what important is whether you work or not, or what percentage of people working, but also how long they work. Okay? So this one shows the average weekly hours of work of the employed person, 1980 to 2014, about 35-year statistics. In early 1980s, Korean people, on average, worked more than 54 hours a week, 55 hours a week. Okay? So how long? It's like... anyway, that's very long. Okay? It's very long. As I said, a lot of them are actually farmers, They tend to work... I don't know, it depends on the season of the year, but anyway, they tend to work very long hours. Anyway, so, and then over time, it just basically drops. Okay? So now it's about 43, between 42 and 44, about around 43 hours per week is the average number of hours per week. Okay, so compared to 30 years ago, Koreans are now working 10 hour less. Okay? Per week. So it's like 8 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's it's just generally a norm right now. Is it long or short? Depends on who you ask, I guess. If you ask me, I don't know. I would say it's just too long still. If you look at the international statistics, it's very long, actually. Compared to most developed countries, we are working longer. Okay? So it's from 2011, OECD statistics, that the longest hour was Turkey, close to 50 hours. But Korea is not far behind. Korea is the second longest. About 40, around that time, I think it's still like 43, 44, something like that. And then we have Mexico, Greece, and then you go going down and down and down. Like in the middle, we have France, Spain, Austria, Canada, something like now it's like less than 40 hours, right? And then if you go to the shortest hour, like around 30, a little more than 30, we have Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, like North European countries, Ireland, Switzerland, Germany. These are like shorter. Okay. Does it mean that every German work 30 hours a week? We have a German? Oh, yeah. No, right? What's happening here then? 40 hours a week. Yeah. See, well, obviously, we should be careful. These are just the average numbers, okay? So we have full-time people and part-time people. So full-time Germans probably work for 40 hours a week. But we have lots, I mean, in Germany, or especially in Netherlands, it's very well known, there are a lot of part-time workers. So if you add them up, then we have average lower than 40 hours. Okay? So it's not like full-time workers in Germany or in Netherlands work significantly less than Korean full-time workers. It's just that Koreans, we have very small portion of part-time workers. Okay? And then these European countries tend to have larger proportion of part-time workers. Okay? So it's not like it's not like the Germans work for only 30 hours a week. Okay, so actually one of the thing that Korean government is keenly interested in is to raise the female labor force participation rate or employment rate. Female labor force participation rate is very low and M-shaped, and one of the things that's suggested is that women drop out of labor force because in Korea it's very difficult to find part-time jobs. Okay? So if we have like more part-time jobs available in the labor market, then a lot of people, rather than dropping out of labor force entirely, they probably opt for shorter hours, like just reduce the number of working hours from 40 to 30. Okay? In that way, actually, they can keep staying in the labor market, and then they preserve their human capital, and at some point they probably can raise working hours again, and so it would be much more desirable than just dropping out of labor force and going back to work for 40 hours a week. Okay? So there has been some efforts to increase the part-time jobs. Okay? So you should have seen it in newspapers about that. And that is all related with this effort in increasing female labor force participation rate. Okay, so questions? Okay, so far we have seen a bunch of Korean labor market statistics. Okay, Koreans are obviously very hard-working people for working for long hours, but we have a lot of problems, right? We have youth employment problems and female employment problems. I mean, they should be very important policy issues for quite some time. I think it's difficult to solve in a short while. Okay. Now let's move on to the theoretical part. Okay. So we have seen, for example, how many hours the individuals work and how many percentage of people are working, all those things, and those statistics are all generated by the workers' choices, workers' labor supply behavior, and with interaction with workers' demand. So first we will see how the labor supply is modeled in labor economics. We call work leisure choice model of labor supply. Okay, this model is very important. I said before, it's a workhorse of labor supply literature. You should know this. When you learn the labor economics, you should know this. And it's easy, actually. It's very easy to follow. So let's see. Okay, and using this model, first we will see hours of work decisions, how many hours to work, and then we will see the participation decision, whether to work or not. Okay, and we derive simply the labor supply curve, and we talk about labor supply elasticity and labor supply of women as a special topic. Okay, work leisure choice model. Okay, as in any model, we need the simplifying assumptions to make this model to work. Okay, and we have made very simple, very important and simplifying assumptions. One, First, individuals divide time to work and leisure only. So in this model, we have a time. We have a time given by the universe. Okay? Fixed, for example, like a whole day. It's 24 hours a week, 24 hours. So it's a fixed, physically fixed. You cannot change it. Now, the people use the time into all sorts of activities. But in this model, we have only two activities, work and leisure. What is work? With work, you earn money. With leisure, you do not earn any money, but you get utility. You get happiness. Okay? Get it? So working gives you money, leisure gives you happiness. Right? So there is no third thing. It's a very simplifying assumption, but it makes sense. Okay? Anything you do other than working, we call them leisure. Okay? Sometimes people kind of have a third one, which is like essential activities, like sleeping, eating. If you don't do this, you die. Or you cannot function. Then the time for these activities, sometimes people just subtract it from 24 hours. Okay? Like 10 hours. You need 10 hours for these essential activities. Then we have, like we can say, we have 14 hours a day, something like that. Okay? There is actually a model that have like 3 uses, like work, and like we have homework and market work. But at the end, actually, having only 2 activities can explain lots of things really well. So we just use 2 activities. Okay, here individuals live for only 1 period. Okay, we're making really simple. So we don't have a future. This person has no future. Okay, no child. So nothing to leave. Spend everything. Okay, do not save. Okay, we can actually change this assumption to make this person to work for many periods, not only 1. Let's say 3 periods, even 60 periods, 60 years. Okay, so then we call them like a life cycle model. Okay, we can even have like a children, but that makes things really difficult. Okay? So in the very basic model, we don't need anything like that. We have just a very simple, only 1 person lives this period and dies, and do not think of the future. Do not think of what happens after I die, Okay? So spend everything. Okay, the utility I talked about, individual utility increase with the consumption and leisure. Okay? There is a leisure, and there is another thing is consumption. Okay? The person works on money. What for? To consume. Okay? So there are goods consumption, and we can say like a leisure consumption. We often use the term consume leisure. Okay? Leisure is a thing that gives you utility, so we can say that it's consume leisure. Leisure is a normal good. Okay? We don't have to assume this, but it makes much more sense to assume this way. Normal good, what does it mean? What is a normal good? What's the definition of a normal good? As income increases, the demand for this good increases. Okay, that is normal good. That's the definition of a normal good, right? So what it means is that this definition just means if the person happens to have higher income, whatever, the money fell from the sky, so I have more money. I just picked up, gold bar on the way to work, so I have more income. Then what this person wants? More leisure. Okay? So that's the normal good. Actually, we can assume that leisure is an inferior good, and we can still have a pretty decent model. But at the end, it turns out that making leisure as a normal good makes much more sense. We'll talk about it. Okay? Questions? So it's basically it's a utility. It's a consumer's choice model with two goods. You know, two goods are goods and leisure. It's a very standard two-good model, okay, for a consumer. Okay? But we have just a special twist that one good is a time. Okay. So let's see. So when we look at the worker's preference, it's basically the utility function with two goods, C and L. C is consumption, L is leisure. Okay. We can draw indifference curve, right? Obviously. Okay. So it will be something like this. Now notice that horizontal axis we have leisure. Okay. Vertical axis we have consumption. Okay, this is the standard way. So every time, every person who uses work-leisure choice model use this diagram. Horizontal axis is always leisure. Vertical axis is always consumption. So we have an indifference curve, just a standard looking indifference curve. It's nothing strange. So U1 and U2, which one is higher utility? U2, right? Farther away from the origin, higher utility. So it's a standard indifference curve. So as we move in the horizontal axis, as we move from left to the right, leisure increases, okay? Which means at the same time, work decreases, okay? Because we have only two uses of time, leisure or work. So no leisure is a work. No work is a leisure. So when the leisure increases, automatically work decreases. Okay? We move from right to left, leisure decreases, then work increases. Okay? So moving from left to the right is working less. Moving from right to left is working more. Okay? So, the we and or I just use interchangeably that increased leisure or work less means same thing. Okay? Decreased leisure or work longer, basically the same thing. Or consume more leisure, increase leisure, work less, all same thing. Okay? Got that? So you should be quickly familiar with this, just to change work and leisure. Just, basically the same thing here. So just the opposite of leisure is work. Okay, MRS, we know what MRS means, right? Marginal rate of substitution. And I'm not gonna I just wrote it down as a reminder. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you what it means. Okay, so we have MRS. MRS, we can say the marginal utility of leisure divided by marginal utility of consumption. Okay, that's our MRS. Okay, so when we have indifference curve, we can obviously draw, to show the MRS. We have two individuals, 1 and 2. Okay, if these two are from the same person's indifference curve, obviously this is a wrong diagram, right? Because the same individuals' indifference curves do not intersect. Okay, so they intersect. Basically, what it means is that these just show that two different individuals' indifference curves. Okay, so they have different preference. Okay? Who likes leisure more? 1 or 2? Who likes leisure more? What is 1? Oh, 1, yeah. 1 or 2? Have some thought. If it's 1, raise your hand. person 1 should be the person who likes leisure more. Person 2 should be person 2. Nobody? Why is it person 1? Anybody can explain? Person 1?
In order to get one more leisure, he's willing to sacrifice more work compared to you two. You1 sacrifice more work compared to you two in order to get one more leisure.
Sacrifice more consumption, I guess. So could sacrifice more goods. Okay? Got it? Okay? So now if you, okay, it's he uses okay, this way. Okay? So get more leisure. Okay, in this way, I think it's the arrow is like basically it's a give up leisure. Okay, so I just use this. So A, B, and D, E is the same length. Okay, so this person are asked how much consumption are you willing to? Okay, no, how much consumption do you want to give up 1 hour of leisure? Let's say. Okay, the person who values leisure more should be the person who want more compensation in terms of more goods. Okay? So to give up AB, person 1 wants BC. Okay? And person 2 give up DE of leisure. Person 2 wants only EF. Okay? So the person 1, this leisure is basically equivalent to CD goods. Okay, for person 2, DE leisure is equivalent to only EF goods. Okay, so the steeper indifference curve in this case shows the person has stronger preference for leisure or likes leisure more compared to the people who have flatter indifference curve. Okay, get it? Stronger taste for leisure, steeper indifference curve, okay, or higher MRS, greater MRS. So how the leisure shaped or how the preference shaped will play a quite important role in determining labor supply behavior. I mean, obviously. Okay, everything else equal, if the person has very stronger preference for leisure, this person is likely to work less. Okay, we will see later. I mean, that should be a logical conclusion from the preference. Okay, stronger taste for consumption, flatter indifference, because we have only leisure and consumption. Okay, now let's look at the budget constraint. Okay, so we need a budget constraint. Okay, here to make a budget constraint, to write the budget constraint down, we have notations hourly wage rate W. Here we assume that the person is paid hourly. W dollars per hour. Total number of hours given by the physical universe we call T. Okay, the uppercase T is total number of hours given for this person's use. Number of working hours we call it H, lowercase, and total number of leisure hours we use L, uppercase L for obvious reason. Because if we use L, it looks lowercase, it looks like 1, so use L, okay? But it depends on person to person. But anyway, we use L, okay? And so we can say that T equals H plus L. Okay, that's the first assumption. The person uses total time into only work or leisure. So T must be equal to the H plus L. Consumption, total value of consumption with C dollars. Okay. Non-labor income. What is non-labor income? Non-labor income is the income this person has. It's not the earnings. This person just gets this income without any work. For example, let's say this person has a property and gets rent. Okay, by renting out this property. So this, without any work, this person still can get this rent income. we call it non-labor income, like a dividend income. Okay, all sorts of things. And we just call them together into V. Okay, so we don't need V to be always positive. It can be 0. Okay, but still, to be more general, we just think of V. Okay, got it? It's a very simple structure. Okay, in these persons, the budget, it's a simple. Consumption should be equal to total income because this person does not save. Okay, and the total income consists of two things. One, earnings, okay, the income earned from work, and non-labor income. Okay, so the total consumption, we use C, right? What is earnings? Earnings are from work. So work from earnings, the income should be the hourly wage times number of working hours, WH. It's earnings, and we have V, non-labor income. Get it? Okay? This is the starting point of our budget constraint. This one is actually a perfect budget constraint, but there is one little problem because in our utility function we have C and L, but here we don't have L, so we have to have L somehow. How can we do it? We just replace H with T minus L. Okay? Then we have budget constraint written with C and L. Okay, so C equals W times T minus L plus V. Okay, so this is the budget constraint we work with. Okay. Or actually, we can write something like this. This one is probably a little better because we can say the C equals minus WL plus WT plus V. Look at WT plus V. What is WT plus V? WT plus V is the income, non-labor income. WT is if the person works for all the time. Then this person would get WT, right? So WT plus V, we call it the potential full income. So potentially it is a full income. So if this person gets the income to the maximum, that's WT plus V. Okay. Then there is a WL part, right? So what is WL part? This is the minus WL part. So what it means? When leisure goes up, right, the consumption will go down by the rate of W. Okay? So we call W the price of leisure. Okay? This is how much you give up when you want to have more leisure. You have 1 hour of leisure. You want 1 hour leisure, you have to give up your hourly wage rate. If your hourly wage rate is $10, then when you have 1 more hour of leisure, you give up $10. That's the price you pay for your leisure time. So we call it the price of leisure. Okay? Get it? So W is the wage rate. So it has a dual meaning, right? One is that how much you earn every hour you work. Or we can say that this is the price this person has to pay when he or she takes 1 hour of leisure. Okay? It's the same thing, just the two sides of the same coin. Right? Make sense? Quite often, actually, it is easier to think W as the price of leisure, because if you think of it as a consumer theory, it's a good. It's a more straightforward to have a price, okay, not the wage. Okay. So we can say there's something like this: this person is given this income and choose leisure by paying W dollars. So it's in a way it's easier to think that at first let's assume that this person is WT plus V at the beginning, and this person just spends time on leisure and paying W for each hour. And once we figure out leisure, it's working hour is just automatic because T minus L is working hour. Okay, we may write C divides into the price of the consumption good and the amount of consumption good this person spends. And then we can, use this way. And then sometimes it's maybe like sometimes you can just divide everything by the price of goods, and then we can have like a real term, but that's not that important at this point. Okay? Questions? Now you got it? So we have a utility function, then we have budget constraint. So when we have the budget constraint, we just draw it this way. We have a leisure, right? The maximum is T. We cannot go above T. And if the person has a leisure equal to our T, okay, it means what? Zero earnings. Okay? So the person's consumption must be equal V. Okay, because there is no earning. And the other extreme is if the person does not have any leisure time, WT plus V. That's the income, or the consumption. Income, consumption here, same thing. Okay, income and consumption in this diagram is synonymous. Same thing. And then we have in the middle bunch of it. Okay, got that? Okay, so what is this line? We call it the budget line. Okay, the slope is determined by W. Okay, so if this person, that's the equation of the budget line, C equals minus WL plus WT plus V. And if the wage is higher, obviously the slope gonna be steeper. Okay. This point wouldn't change, right? Because this point is fixed, cannot change. So when wage goes up, it just whole thing becomes steeper. Goes down, flatter. Okay? So later, when you say that when we say in the diagram, when the wage changes, we just show it using different slope. Okay? Wage going up, just making budget line steeper. Wage going down, making budget line flatter. Okay. When you change non-labor income, what happens? This whole thing will just shifts up. Okay, but now no change in the slope, and we just have a higher thing in here. Starting point gets just higher. Okay. Questions? I know it's all basic thing, but it's important. Okay, then what is the optimal consumption? Okay, now it's easy because we have indifference curves, we have a budget line, it's the standard utility maximization, thing. What is it? It's just that the optimal point is the point where that indifference curve meets the budget line, okay? Just touches the budget line or tangential to the budget line. Okay? And that point is what? The point is what point? A, P, Y, E. What's the optimal point? Should be P. Okay? A is less than optimal, okay, because this person can increase the utility level. Y is not possible, okay? Outside the budget set, you cannot have this, even if you want. So the maximum this person can do, given the budget, should be P. Okay, so this is just the all standard utility maximization theory. So at P, for in this case, this person's wage rate is, I think it's $10. Yeah. So this person's wage rate is $10. Okay, so non-labor income $100. So if and then we have, this is a weekly hour. So 110 is the total weekly hour. Okay, and given the budget line and indifference curve, this person chooses to have 70 hours of leisure, which means how many hours of work? 40 hours of work. Okay. So once we decide the leisure hour, working hour is just the T minus L. Okay. There is nothing special about it. So working for 40 hours a week, so this person earns how much? 400, because hourly wage rate is 10, 400 plus non-labor income, so the consumption is 500. Okay? Get that? The standard utility maximization. So we have a condition, okay, at point P, slope of indifference curve equal to slope of budget constraint, okay, budget line, okay, it's all standard. So MRS equals the slope of the budget line, okay, so MRS equals P, equals W. What is the MRS? In this case, MUL over MUC, so MUL over MUC should be equal to W. Okay, MUL over W equals to MUC. Yeah, I think we should stop here today, okay? And then we will continue on Wednesday, the next slide.